for letting me come in early. I wanted to get a feel of my office this morning. It's nice to have my own workspace. It really, I'll be happy with anything. I'll have 770 to 779. Oh, just one. Has anybody in the staff the president before? No, I can handle it. I just thought I'd be going to the full question. Really, I can't complain. This is my first professional job outside of my program. Yes, thank you. I'll see you next week. I know, she would be thrilled. I'll lock it up. Good night. Test. Test. I'm a temporary archivist for the Leslie Historical Society. I took the position this past summer for Museum Class 770 to 779, although I've only been familiar with Box 779. My temporary position was set to complete and preserve Box 779 in its entirety. These archives contain personal documents, diaries, and personal journals from past residents of Leslie. I was told we usually file these documents in a special collections library in the museum in order to preserve the genealogy of the area and make it accessible to our residents. However, the museum does not get much foot traffic and we do not get many visitors unless the space is being rented out for other events. Public schools rent our multi-purpose room and use the space for their students' art exhibits. Sometimes we get field trips. It's usually a big day for us, and on occasion we have about 30 patrons during the Halloween season when we show a variety of films in our cinema, the multi-purpose room. I do admit, this space has a rather eerie vibe to it, so it's not surprising that most patrons we have outside school events are here to embark in the ambiance of a historical building. Needless to say, we do what we can to keep our doors open and connected to the community. I got my connection to the society through Dorothy Duncan on account of my late grandmother. My grandmother was a regular at the museum. She volunteered at events and was a tour guide on Leslie's walking tours. She seemed to have an all-encompassing mind about Leslie. Sometimes I even wonder if she knew more than Miss Duncan. She was passionate. She's the reason I'm here today. Public Library has offered to take over our space and use it as another one of their branches and to, quote, keep us alive. The museum was founded in 1912 and has been under the Duncan since. I'm working to find a trend of experiences that can be put in a new exhibit in efforts to just get more people through the door, but I haven't found anything I can pull together. Box 779 has been odd. That's the only way I can think to describe it. The archives have been making me nervous. I can't leave them until I find something. For the sake of preserving every document I record, I'm not sure why I've recorded any of this. The date is April 12th, 2025. Journal entries of J. Cottle and Ruth H. regarding experiences at Bailey Branch at the Ford Wooten Creek. Entries date October 1929 to January 1946. Recording by temporary archivist. Not sure how much longer we can call this temporary. Of the Leslie Historical Society. Entries begin. J. Cottle. October 1929. My hands are blue. I always knew they would be, but it's a funny thing. When you're aware of something, it doesn't seem scary until it's actually happening to you. Now they're here. My blue hands, they seem to illuminate my walks home. I no longer need my lantern when my hands are blue. starting to notice them more now that I'm being kept to the plants so late. I thought my children would also be fearful of my hands, but instead they seem to admire them. Joseph claims that remind him of the water. Joseph and Irene have been spending most of their afternoons at the creek. I used to do the same. I rushed excitedly from the schoolyard. I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd just jump right on in. The water is still so crystal blue that you can make out any crawdads and water snakes your heart desires. It's easy to find stones to skip along the river's current. The creek holds a lot of childhood memories, and I'm just fine with Joseph and Irene making some of their own. Maybe blue hands aren't so bad. October 13th, 1929. I'm starting to notice every one of the plant's hands are turning. It's just a matter of time before all our hands glide off into a flock of bluebirds. Blue hands operating machinery to make the perfect shape of molten sand. Blue hands eating bread and cheese on fresh bread. And blue hands shivering, holding lit lanterns on the way home. I was a part of a flock. We were becoming creatures of habit. This evening, my lantern was blown out just as I hit the fork in the road, separating Bailey Branch and our home. Beneath the fork sat the crystal water of Wooten Creek. In the current, you can make out the moonlight that's shown from above. I'm usually prepared with more oil, but broke my habit today and left the house with no oil or matches for my lantern. Tonight I was in complete, utter darkness. Just when I was starting to get used to my blue hands, it failed me. I usually imagine them shining like stars pulled straight from the night sky. But tonight, they weren't even as bright as the moonlight on the Wooten Creek. They just stained flesh. And in the dark, my hands were no longer blue. They're nothing. They've been dimmed and are of no use. Funny how in the dark, everything seems to grow louder. Even your breath is louder, but you can hear your heart beating in your chest. The branches underneath my feet were pounding my ears, and I could hear the breaking of other branches around me. Probably just critters, I thought. They'd be very ignorant to think they're alone in these woods. That must have been the other noises I was hearing. Not an owl. I held my breath. There was something bigger. I couldn't hold back the shock whenever it was in the dark with me. I picked up my pace. I could see the house getting closer and closer. And as I was getting closer, the same feet were getting closer and closer. Whatever was following me was right behind me. Finally, I froze. And I turned around. Two eyes. Two eyes I found staring back at me. I held my breath and we stared at each other for a while. With the same gush of wind that killed my lantern, a bell sounded. I held my breath even longer and crept closer and closer to the bell, making sure not to snap any twigs or loose the lock of the eyes that stared back at me. I crept closer and closer, and a cow? Too frightened to deal with whatever it was, I ran home. I don't leave the house without oil or matches anymore. October 21st, 1929. I've been feeling more and more uneasy on my walks back home from work. I can't help but look behind me, expecting to find two glaring eyes staring back at me. Most nights when I arrive home, Joseph and Irene are asleep in bed. Tonight, I found Joseph waiting wide awake for me. He said he was still hungry even after the dinner I left for him. Now, I wonder if he was hungry or wishing for me to come home. No matter. I prepared what I could for the night. Joseph said he still could not go to bed because he was not ready to get in bed just yet or tired. I recognized this as a plea to stay up with me, so I rocked him. The plans giving us food, but taking these moments away from us just the same.
Mama, you need to change your hands.
Joseph once compared these to crystal blue water.
They don't match.
I didn't know what to say.
You should scrub them, Mama. Scrub them hard until all the blue ones are gone.
I thought you liked my blue hands. I thought they reminded you of Wooten Creek.
They don't match anymore.
If I scrub them, the blue won't go away. My hands are stained, sweetheart.
Irene said if you scrub them hard and long, it will hurt them and turn them red. I don't want it to hurt you.
Then I won't scrub them. There's no use.
But red would match.
Ruth H., 7th of January, 1946. I arrived this morning to my assignment by train. The mountains are far more beautiful than I could have imagined. Mary described them so eloquently in her recruitment letters. Stepping off the train was like stepping on land, completely different than mine, but similar. The greenery seemed to come more from the density of the trees. I expressed I could ride in these conditions with certainty through my letters, but at that moment I was unsure. I was met with a woman who said she was a school teacher and someone who knows the area well. She told me to call her Bertie. We left the station and she took me to a tree where she had 2 horses tied. She must have led one of the horses from horseback by herself to have it ready for my arrival. She took me to my accommodation called Big House. We journeyed down mountains to Big House. There were several times I thought I might fall off right over my horse's head. Luckily, we made it safely. Big House is a cabin that sits 2 stories tall and is almost hidden by the trees surrounding it. There are stables that hold horses we are to ride to our patients. Upstairs has one big room lined with twin-sized beds. The first story is similar, except each bed has a crib and medical equipment for us to use. Bertie took me to the stables after. They were just as impressive as Big House. Each horse was assigned to a nurse. I found the horse I rode from the station already waiting for me to ride it to my first assignment. I hope I can do some good for Mary's mission and for this region. They don't seem much different from us here. 10th of January, 1946. I'm starting to get used to the terrain. A good ride is when the ground is still unstable and rocky and damp, but not damp enough where my horse might slip and hurt us both. This evening was the opposite. The rain was heavy, and it would have felt peaceful to listen to it hit the roof of the house if I were to stay in. The rain felt like being hit by pebbles falling from the sky, or an acorn ascending from the treetop's canopy. The ride was not only unsteady, but very, very slippery. On my mission tonight, I no longer felt like I might fall over my horse's head, but instead like each step could send us both over, backwards, or even sideways. It just had to do. It was an obstacle to what could be a terrible fate for my patient if I didn't move quickly. My horse was trained for this, and unlike me, grew up in this. The pace was fast, but steady, and we eventually arrived at a cabin with a clearing. I could hear cries behind the insulated walls. I rushed to the porch, but the front door was already open and waiting.
Please, miss, she's just inside here.
The lady laid on a bed in the kitchen. She looked exhausted.
You'll have to take her to the hospital.
I only have one horse.
The baby. She'll have to be taken immediately.
Big House is closer.
Big House doesn't have what she needs yet.
I don't know if I can make it fast enough.
You'll have to. I'll stay here with the mother.
The woman was someone I recognized but hadn't interacted with. She seemed to have more experience in the region than I, and her dialect told the same. I didn't have time to debate her demands before she wrapped the baby around my chest. She's asleep, but hardly breathing. The cries must have been the mother's. I rode my horse as fast as I could in the direction of the hospital. This made me think of the racing my family praised back home. I wonder if the men who rode in those races ever felt like this. I knew in that particular moment I could outrun any of them. No amount of money could compare to the reward of the race I was in. I was hopeful in my race against time. There were pounds of water beating my face, mud flying from my horse and over my head, and a baby strapped to my chest. Not affected by any of this. I had to make it. That's when my horse paused. A stop of time. The sound and consciousness left my brain.
A hat pin.
I had been thrown from my horse. The baby. I still had the baby. She was breathing. I sat on the ground. I could feel wet earth seeping into my trousers.
A hat pin.
Thought I was alone. It took my make out the silhouette of this image. I couldn't make out any of their features. The only light from their face came from their eyes. Two lights shining back at me.
You will need your hat pin.
I reached to feel the hat pin I used to secure my cap, just above the bun on my head. I didn't pull it from my hair. What for? The figure stood with their head to the side, glaring back at me. No response. I'm not sure why I felt so uneasy. This had to be another nurse.
Force the hat pin through.
I stood, but my feet slipped. I was on my back with the baby on top of me. Surrounding me was earth, everywhere except for above. When I stood, the earth was up at my hips. Another hole. There was another hole next to the one I was standing in, almost identical, but not as long as the one where I'd fallen. Both empty and both fresh. At the head of each hole sat two stones. They had names and were dated. The stones read, Irene Cottle, July 14th, 1922 to October 22nd, 1929. And the other, Joseph Cottle, March 7th, 1924 to October 22nd, 1929. I ran! Entries end. I leaned on to Miss Duncan to help with some digging on these entries. We were able to pull a data table from Mary Breckenridge's manuscript containing information about nurses that were part of the Frontier Nursing Service. We found Ruth Haddock from Glencoe, Scotland. She served 6 years with the FNS. The data shows Haddock took an infant to Breckenridge's hospital on the evening of January 10, 1946. Treatment, incubator, and Gadders meeting. We can assume Ruth was successful in her race that night. We were also able to uncover the likelihood of J. Cottle's prolonged exposure to silver oxide used in glass production, and it is also likely that she was a descendant of the blue mucus family. She could have had symptoms of methemoglobinemia, a rare blood disease. This could explain why her hands weren't only blue, but bright. Miss Duncan would not further investigate the red current and any graves mentioned in the journals. I didn't dare mention the figure any further. However, I was able to uncover a news report from 1946 involving a group of residents of and around Beale Ranch. They uncovered the grave of a woman buried in the area, but they didn't take her body. Instead, they nailed the coffin shut. The papers seemed to indicate a sense of foreboding within the residents. I certainly sensed the same from Miss Duncan. A hat. I can think of a reason why the figure wanted Ruth to use it that way. I can't shake that feeling. I'm not an investigator. I'm an archivist.